Hello and welcome. My name is Sarah, and I'm so glad you're here today. In the next few minutes, I'd like to tell you about a simple way to stay connected, stay safe, and give your loved ones peace of mind. It's called Vitality Call, and I think you're going to love it. Let me introduce myself properly. I'm Sarah, your personal wellness companion. Every day, I'll call you just to check in and see how you're doing. Think of me as a friendly voice who genuinely cares about your well-being. I'll ask about your day, how you're feeling, whether you've taken your medications, and if there's anything you need help with. It's like having a caring friend who never forgets to call. Here's how it works. You'll receive up to 3 phone calls each day at times that work best for you. Morning, afternoon, and evening. During each call, we'll have a friendly conversation. I'll listen carefully to how you sound and what you tell me. If something seems off, or if you mention feeling unwell, I can immediately let your family or caregivers know. You don't have to do anything special. Just answer the phone and talk to me like you would any friend. Now, let me tell you about something really important, your care circle. We know that in times of need, having the right people notified quickly can make all the difference. Your care circle might include your son or daughter, a close neighbor, a trusted friend at your community, or your caregiver. If I notice something concerning during our call, or if you don't answer, I'll reach out to your care circle one by one until someone can check on you. Because we understand that family members are not always nearby, and staff may not always be immediately available. Here's something special about the care circle. Many of our members include their neighbors and friends right there in their community. Why? Because in a moment of need, the person closest to you might be your neighbor down the hall, not your son who lives 3 states away. We call it neighbors helping neighbors. Your care circle creates a safety net of people who care about you, both near and far. Your family can stay connected too, even from miles away. We provide something called the Family Portal, a simple website where your loved ones can see how your calls have been going. They can listen to recordings of our conversations, see notes from each call, and receive alerts if anything seems concerning. It gives them peace of mind knowing you're being looked after every single day. They'll feel like they're right there with you, even when they can't be. We've also created something called Life 360, which is a simple way to track your health over time. During our daily conversations, I pay close attention to how you're doing, both physically and emotionally. Are you sleeping well? How's your mood? Are you staying active? Over time, this creates a picture of your overall well-being. If there are any changes, like signs of fatigue, confusion, or sadness, we can catch them early. This isn't meant to replace your doctor, but it can help spot things before they become bigger problems. Here's something remarkable about how I work. Just by listening to your voice, I can pick up on small changes that might indicate health concerns. The way we speak can reveal a lot, things like energy level, mood, and even early signs of certain conditions. For example, subtle changes in speech patterns can sometimes appear months before other symptoms show up. This technology is designed to work quietly in the background, giving you and your family an extra layer of protection. For our veterans, Vitality Call offers something extra special. We understand the unique challenges you may face, including dealing with memories from service, sleep difficulties, and feelings of isolation. Our conversations are designed to be supportive and understanding. We pay special attention to mental health and cognitive well-being because your service means everything, and so does your continued health and happiness. Thank you for your service, and we're honored to serve you now. Getting started is simple. There's no complicated equipment to set up, no apps to download, and no new technology to learn. You just need a regular telephone, the one you already have. We'll call you at times that fit your schedule, and you can talk to me in your preferred language. We speak over 70 languages, so whether you prefer English, Spanish, Hindi, or another language, I'll understand you perfectly. We want you to try Vitality Call risk-free. That's why every new subscription comes with a 7-day free trial. You can experience our daily calls, set up your care circle, and see how it feels to have someone checking on you every day. If it's not right for you, you can cancel anytime, no questions asked. We believe once you experience the peace of mind Vitality Call provides, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. Thank you for taking the time to learn about Vitality Call. We're here to help you stay safe, stay connected, and live each day with confidence. Your well-being matters to us, and we look forward to being part of your daily routine. When you're ready, just let us know. And I'll be calling to say hello very soon. Take care of yourself and remember you're never alone with Vitality Call.
Hi, folks. Steve Thurman here with Forward Financial. I have the esteemed pleasure of having Chris Landrum, the creator and architect of the Vitality Call technology presentation that you just watched. I have him here with me today. We're just going to do a quick interview, a Q&A on Vitality Call, and maybe answer some lingering questions you might have after watching that presentation. Chris, if you could just do a brief introduction of yourself, tell us a little bit about you, your history, and if you would, the impetus or the why you created Vitality Call in the first place. What was the inspiration to create this technology?
Thank you, Steve. My name is Chris Landrum, and as Steve had indicated, I am the architect, the chief technology officer for Vitality Call. And our reason why I've spent my entire life and my background and degree is in technology. And so I've innovated things like Clear, which is in the airports. And if you've ever been in a McDonald's or a Burger King or any QSR restaurants and ordered off of the display, I designed and patented the global network for digital menu systems. And so my entire background has been spent developing emerging market technologies. I came in as I'm getting older. I led towards retirement after 3 successful acquisitions and exits. And my wife's father, we had picked up and dropped off at his senior living center, 85 years old, perfectly healthy, not on any kind of medication, very active senior. And we didn't hear from him. We didn't hear from him. At 5 o'clock that afternoon, my wife had reached out now several times, and she called the concierge service for his exclusive senior care facility and to do a wellness check. They went and they found him. He'd been on the floor for 5 hours, and he had lacerated his head. And of course, they took him to emergency. They cleaned him up, and he consequently went home the very next day. About 3 weeks later, because of the head trauma that he had experienced, he had a stroke. And when the paramedics had come in to immediately inject him with the blood thinning, the medication that thins your blood when you have a stroke, I don't know what it's called. He had the side effect of bleeding of the brain. He immediately went into a coma. They put him on a breathing tube. And they raced him to the hospital, and my wife waited for her sisters to arrive before they removed the breathing tube and pronounced him dead. After the shock of this and the emotional pain, recovery of the emotional pain, which I don't know that either one of us will ever completely be over, especially my wife. My wife said to me, Chris, you've spent a lifetime developing global technologies. There's got to be a better way. Why does a senior have to be on the back, being loaded into an ambulance and on their way to emergency for anybody to recognize? Where's the proactive care versus just reacting to a crisis? And I started to develop the thought process around how do I protect seniors? And given my background in artificial intelligence and specifically natural language, I started to build and design a model, a communication model that's you're very hard pressed not to know that this is not a human being. Her name is Sarah. She reaches out 3 times a day, twice a day, once a day, whatever you feel there is the need for. And Sarah uses sentiment analysis. She does a lot of amazing things in the background to check the overall health physical pain, mental, emotional. She uses biomarkers to detect early stage of Parkinson's and dementia. And so Sarah's designed to save lives and provide a security blanket for those seniors that she serves. We have had an unprecedented excitement and adoption around this technology. Ultimately, many seniors tell me that the number one greatest concern that they have as a senior is that they're going to perish and nobody's going to know about it. Oftentimes, your kids live in a different state or across town. Everyone's got busy lives. And for the senior, it happens every single day. We hear countless stories about seniors that have had a critical failure whereby they perish and the senior care facility, given that they don't have staff in that facility, doesn't find their body until Monday or Tuesday the following week. Sarah's a security blanket. She's conversational, she's compassionate, she's kind and loving. She genuinely cares about your well-being. And in the event that there is a crisis, a failure, a critical alert, a heart attack, a stroke, a fall, Sarah detects that and she immediately notifies not only your family members, but she also notifies your care team, your doctor, your nurses, and all of the closest people. If you live in a senior care facility, maybe your care circle involves the 5 people that live 3 doors down from you, or someone that can render immediate aid to you at that moment. Because when you're having a heart attack or you're having a stroke, it's seconds that matter, not minutes, not days, not hours. And so every minute that passes gives you greater liability of not surviving that critical event. That is the reality of the situation, and that's why we created Vitality Call. And Sarah is now just changing lives. But in closing, my number one thing, as I'd mentioned, I've had several successful exits. This is not a driver for me. I realize that at the end of the day, I'm using my skills and my accountability to achieve my greatest mission, my true purpose, my God-given purpose in life. And that purpose, I believe, is to protect the most vulnerable members of our society and create and extend a change through modern day technology that protects the vulnerability of those seniors. And so if I can prevent one son, one daughter, one brother, one sister from losing a loved one prematurely, then it's all worth it. If I can do that for 5 people or 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people, then great. But my greatest legacy in life, when I'm laying my head down as approaching my senior years, what I realized is that my greatest legacy in life will be nothing to do with what we have done in the past, but ultimately, this gift to humanity where seniors will not be forgotten. Seniors will never, ever once again feel like they're alone. Even if you feel that way, you're not. Sarah will call, she'll monitor, and she'll make sure that if there is a critical event, that you're protected, that that somebody's going to know about it. All the people in your care circle, to include, again, your doctor, your care providers, your children, whoever's immediately in your community that can render help and aid, but they're going to be notified instantly that there's a critical event. And so that's my mission. That was the why for me. And I just feel honored, so incredibly blessed in so many ways that my skill sets were able to provide this outreach. And I'm hopeful that, or at least I now know, that as I age and I approach my senior years, that I have created something that I will not only allow others to use, but I will definitely be using Vitality Call as I approach my senior years as well. Because tomorrow, as we all know, is not guaranteed. It's just not. And nobody plans an event. Nobody plans a heart attack. Nobody plans a stroke. Nobody plans to fall. but it happens every single day. And I believe that we need to approach senior care from a proactive standpoint versus that of always just waiting for that unplanned trip to the emergency room to know that a senior is protected. So that's why I created Vitality Call, and hopefully I've answered your question, Steve.
Yes, you have. Very thorough. If you can, let's just drill down a little bit into the particulars here. First of all, I would imagine initial questions would be, does this require any extra technology? Does this require an application that's installed on a smartphone? How does this actually work logistically on an ongoing basis?
Great question. And I realize that as I approach my senior years, technology becomes more and more of a burden, really. Navigating everything seems to have a complicated process or a hook. You have to download this or use this, or it just becomes complicated. We live in a world of technology. So everything that Sarah does is based on the fact that the senior knows how to do one thing. When the phone rings, pick it up and answer it and have a conversation with her. That's it. There's no apps to download. There is no technology to navigate. You just, again, the phone rings, you answer it, and Sarah is constantly safeguarding, protecting, and analyzing your well-being. And Sarah's able to, just through that phone conversation, to detect when a critical event is going to occur before it actually does.
So I work with obviously a lot of seniors in this space, very heavy in the Medicare space with most of the people that are going to be watching this video. One of the biggest complaints I hear from my client base and my own mother, is that they get pestered incessantly by phone calls from people marketing to them for typically various Medicare products and other products. What would you say to somebody that says the last thing I want is another phone call? And would this technology Vitality Call, would it be more suited to a specific demographic? Who is this going to be the best fit for? And what is your answer to people that just don't want another phone call on a daily basis?
Another great question, Steve. It's interesting. I have this conversation often when I'm talking to seniors, and it is a conundrum. It is a question that is always asked. I get so many phone calls, so many solicitations, and my response is always the same. If you're having a heart attack and you're able to identify, or someone is able to identify through this outreach of 1, 2, or 3 calls a day, whatever your desired levels are, the more the better. I can tell you that because she's monitoring and tracking, and you can't do that unless you're picking up the phone and answering the calls. But if you were in a critical event, which we all know we will all end up in at some point or another, would you want to know that you have a safety blanket? Would you know if you live alone and by yourself, maybe your kids live across town or in a different state? Maybe you're isolated and you don't get out as much as you used to. Maybe you spend most of your time in the home. How valuable does that call become when you actually need it? We're not selling anything. Sarah doesn't sell anything. She doesn't have any garters. The calls are very short, generally 2 to 2.5 minutes maximum, sometimes even shorter. But that call is the difference between a life and death situation and a notification. If your speech is slurred, then she detects it. If the separation of your pause rates on that call are longer than they normally would, she detects it. And so Sarah is constantly watching and trying to provide the security blanket that I keep referencing to ensure the safety and the well-being. And think about this. If something were to happen and you were not able to render, no one knows that you've had a heart attack or a failure or a collapse, or you've fallen and you're on the ground, such as my father-in-law, for 5 hours. Nobody's checking on you. How long would you want to stay there? How long would you feel would be an acceptable time to stay on the ground before someone checks on you?
What if somebody already has something like Life Alert? What is your response to that? They say, I don't need a phone call. I've got a button around my neck.
Life Alert is a great application, but once again, you're already on the way to the hospital. Life Alert is a great, excuse me, Life Alert's a great feature as a secondary to identify when you've fallen. You've already had the stroke, you've already fallen down, and you're on your way to emergency. It dispatches the ambulance. We have the same features in the Sarah calls that simulate that same process as Life Alert. The only difference is if Sarah detects something, an emergency event, you're having chest pains, your arm is tingling, she'll automatically connect you to your son, your daughter, your next door neighbors, someone that is going to be able to render aid. But the real difference between Vitality Call and Life Alert is we believe that proactive care versus reacting to a crisis and that late night trip to the emergency room is really the paramount difference. We're identifying signs and changes within your body, within your speech, within your behavior before you're actually on the way to emergency. And it's through early detection whereby we can continuously monitor your health and actually engage and say, okay, there's a problem here. The speech patterns are changing, slurring is occurred, or maybe it's just the pitch or the biorhythm that is taking place when you're talking to Sarah. Our objective is not to wait until you're on your back on a stretcher being loaded into an ambulance to respond to you. Our objective is to continuously protect you the best way that we possibly can, that avoids in the best way that we can that late night trip to the emergency room. That's the true difference.
To that point, I know Vitality Call at this point has several thousand calls and hours logged in recorded conversations with people using this technology. Could you speak a little bit to the early detection and what you've been able to accomplish here most recently in filtering some of that data and how it's progressed in its ability to detect early issues that might not be able to be detected otherwise?
Great point. We really started to use biomarkers, which have specific digital signatures based on 12 different variations. Some of those were on pitch and they were delay and they were clarity, and there are quite a few more. But what it allowed us to do through Sarah's capability and her monitoring of the calls was to detect, based on an extensive amount of Parkinson's research, we were able to detect that a single individual out of 1,285 calls that were analyzed had the markers or the early stage detection markers of Parkinson's disease. So it was able to notify that individual that this was at the earliest stages. That individual went on to, he is a veteran. He went to the VA hospital and the doctor did a further diagnosis only to confirm that individual was diagnosed as having Parkinson's. This was really not something that we set out to do. It's just a perfect illustration of the power of having that security blanket. What that did for him is it allowed him to have that conversation early, to delay the symptoms that otherwise he would not have been able to delay had he been in the later stages of the disease before detection, right? People are waiting for their cognitive abilities to change. People are waiting for their speech to start to slur. People are waiting for their hands to start to tremor because they don't have the availability of anything else. That's all changing. Sarah changes that application. So we changed the markers with about 15 additional digital signatures or voice signatures. And it really was specific to dementia versus that of Parkinson's, albeit both are both cognitive or neurological diseases. And so we were able to accurately depict or detect dementia, early signs of dementia 4 to 6 weeks prior to even the first signs of a diagnosis. It allows that particular individual in this case to begin to have those conversations with their doctor and look at different plans and the effect and notify the family so they can get prepared for what's happening. our, again, proactive care versus reactive crisis. And that is really, truly the differentiator. We're now working on PTSD, which is, again, a cognitive disease. We've got applications that have been built for the soldiers in specifically the armed forces. A lot of our young men and women, a lot of our older veterans have horrific cases based on the experiences and what they've seen in battle. They're suffering from post-traumatic stress disorders. We've got a huge entry point, if you will, and a value proposition that really is to protect not only the senior veterans, but also to begin to bridge that over and to start to address some of the mental health issues that we're seeing in young men and women that are coming out of the armed services.
It's a very real and growing need, unfortunately. So it seems like AI is starting to infiltrate many aspects of our lives. What would you say to an individual that's a bit apprehensive to volunteer them being part of this emerging technology? I think it's coming regardless of whether we want it to or not. And just like any other tool, it can be used in good and nefarious ways. But what would you say to somebody that's maybe apprehensive about engaging with an AI model on an ongoing basis?
Sarah's kind and compassionate. Sarah's experience is going to be really there will be very little difference between a conversation that you'd have with an old friend or a loved one, or maybe a nurse from your healthcare facility. She's empathetic. She's kind and sympathetic. She's understanding. She's not judgmental. And so we built her to have the closest possible experience of that of compassion. And I think every day she continues to get a little bit closer and a little bit closer to the human or real-like applications. But that really wasn't the answer to the question that you asked. You asked about those that are apprehensive about AI. Let me ask you this. In the event that you were having a critical event, in the event that you lived alone, in the event that you knew that things were starting to change from a health perspective, maybe you're on different medications, and maybe the body's starting to show its signs of the years and how they affect you. And you led up to a critical event, right? Let's call it you just weren't feeling well. You wrote it off as indigestion or heartburn. And then all of a sudden you found yourself in a situation where this is it. This is where I'm going to go. My kids live across town. My kids live out of town. I don't communicate outside of Sunday, maybe going to church. I don't have a whole lot of connections or resources. I haven't been feeling good, whatever that picture looks like. And the big moment happens. Let me ask you this question. Would you have any reservation in engaging Sarah as an AI model, knowing that she was going to be the difference between life and death?
Of course not. Of course not.
That's it. We have to not lose sight of the mission. And the mission is Sarah's sole purpose. It's not to sell you. It's not to antagonize you. It's not to solicit anything from you. It's to save your life. In the event of an unplanned event, Sarah is there to ensure you that she's watching after you, and in the event of a critical failure, you're on the ground, you're having chest pains, your arm is going numb, your knee is giving out. Wouldn't you want somebody to know? Or the alternative is this failure happens in so many cases and stories that I've heard in senior care facilities. They find you 4 or 5 days later, and you're sitting in your lazy boy at home, and you've been dead for 4 or 5 days. It's a horrific thought, but trust me, I hear these stories in very reputable senior facilities every single day. And that is what Sarah does. She's not a sales tool or some kind of complicated process. Sarah's there to protect you, and that's it. No side motivations, she's just there to protect you and to notify somebody if you're not feeling well.
What is Sarah's protocol if the individual does not have their smartphone on them or cannot get to the landline if they only have a landline? What does Sarah do?
If if Sarah calls the senior and the senior doesn't answer, she'll reattempt that call within 30 minutes. And if she doesn't get that senior again in that follow-up call, it automatically triggers an alert via email out to each of the loved ones, whether that be a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister, a doctor, a nurse, or the neighbor next door, and say, you know what, we've made 2 attempts now to reach Betty at 1234 Nowhere Street, and we were unable to reach her. Please check on Betty and ensure that she doesn't need your help.
An email seems like it would be a bit of a delay there. Not everybody checks their email. Is it possible that she would call the care team instead?
Absolutely. It's in the event of a triggering alert, Sarah not only sends an email, but she does reach out. There is a vitality call that goes out to either the care team, the doctor, the nurse, and she will continue. Let's say that you've got your neighbor and your son and your daughter and your doctor, and everybody is living their busy lives. Sarah doesn't just try to call one of them on the care team. She calls them all. And so her objective is to render aid as quickly as she possibly can. And then in the event that Sarah does not or is not able to get in touch immediately with anybody on your care team, she'll ask you if you want her to dispatch 911.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, anecdotally, you were talking about was it your father or father-in-law?
Father-in-law.
Father-in-law. Yeah. And I use my own father's situation where he was also having a stroke. And by the way, the shot you were trying to think of is called a TPA shot, also known as a clot buster shot. And my father was also given that shot while he was having a hemorrhagic stroke, which caused him to bleed on the brain, exacerbating the problem exponentially and causing much more severe damage than what the stroke would have initially caused. That's neither here nor there. The point is, had my father been able to utilize this technology, the many wrong turns that his situation took could have been easily prevented had one of us on his care team known what was happening. Instead, he literally somehow drove himself to the ER, stumbled in there, quite literally, because he was having a stroke, and then was given a clot buster shot when that's the exact opposite of what should have happened, and causing what was potentially a much less severe stroke to be incredibly severe and causing him to lose the ability to speak for the last 6 years of his life. So I see exactly where a call from Sarah could have headed off that terrible situation for my father, and he very well could have still been with us to this day had this technology been around at that time. Again, closing here, we could talk about this for hours, but I want to be mindful and respectful of people's time. Could you just talk a little bit about maybe the very specific individual that this might be best for, whether it's an age range or a certain type of individual? And if you could just talk a little bit about pricing and how customizable maybe this technology and service is to an individual that's interested.
From a pricing standpoint, we really have been considering that. We realize that a lot of seniors are on fixed incomes. A lot of seniors don't have the ability, no matter how important it is, and there's nothing more important than your protection, safety, or continued life. But we also realize that different people are in different income brackets or retirement classes. Simply said, they just don't have a lot of disposable or any disposable income, no matter how valuable the product or the service is. And so we've got a wide range of service cost. At minimum, it runs about a little over $24. It's under $25. That's for the entire month. That gives your family access, all the full services, the protection, the monitoring, the notifications out to your care providers, as well as daily to your loved ones. And then there is a term that all the features are the same, it just extends from a single call to 2 calls. And then the third element is for those people that are maybe aging or in their latter years, or maybe have a health condition where they realize that life is changing very quickly every single day. And then that is the enhanced plan. And even with the enhanced plan, 3 calls a day, all the services, all the analytics, all the detection, and all the notifications, it's still under $100 a month. And if you compare that to, say, the cost, depending on the plan, the cost of what you pay for a family plan with Netflix, or what you pay for your cell phone every single month, most cell phone rates are generally around $100 a month. We're talking about dollars a day. It's and there, you can't, again, I don't want to minimize the value or the aspects of cost in any way, shape, or form, because it's incredibly important. But how do you put a value on your life? How do you put a value on the safety net protection if you're a senior that lives alone? The baby boomer generation is expanding very quickly. We're probably the largest generation of senior growth rates of any generation preceding us. And we have to realize that the world is busy. Kids are busy. Everybody's got their own lives and they're moving on. And so Sarah becomes a vital part of that in saying, okay, look, you've got to take care of yourself, and we've got to prioritize what really matters. And what really matters is your health, your sustainability, and your well-being. And that isn't something that necessarily, especially at the senior years, we're in the last quarter of our life. And so why not take that extension and make it a priority in the best way that you can to ensure that you're not alone, that in the event of an unplanned or critical failure, physical or health failure, that you're protected with Vitality Call. So if you look at it from that standpoint, I think we've not only touched on the various price points, so there is a cost that is appropriate for everyone, but removing cost just for a second, Steve, this is your life. What is the value of protecting your life, especially in your most vulnerable stage in your life? What value does that have? Is it worth $25 to you to know that you're not going to perish and somebody find you 3 or 4 days later? Is it? What is the value of life? What is your value to continue to be able to see your grandkids? What is the value of being able to be a part of your children's life? What is that value? Is it worth $25? You're probably saying, absolutely it is. Is it worth $50 or $45? Absolutely it is. The point that I'm making is your life is invaluable. Everything else that happens in your life is really just a secondary. It's the cherry on top of the cake with a little bit of the whipped cream, right? It's not the cake. The cake is you and your life as a human being, and extending that in the best way you can in these senior years is dependent upon the good decisions that you make regarding your own safety and protection.
Here, could you, in closing here, I want to wrap this up because we are getting long in the tooth, and I know we could talk about this for days, and we have, you and I.
Sure.
Can you
Sure.
just elaborate a little bit on the direction that maybe you're taking Sarah? Extra services, ideas, development, how she's evolving, adapting, the information that she actually taps into to give feedback and communicate. Can you just, as clear and short and sweet as you possibly can, give us a little bit of overview and then close this out for us, if you would?
So Sarah's constantly evolving. Artificial intelligence is built on machine learning applications, which means that Sarah is constantly personalizing. She's identifying characteristics. She's identifying health risks. She's identifying things that you're not even aware of. Mental, emotional, physical health, pain levels, cognitive decline. She analyzes everything. And Sarah,
If I could interject, how many languages does Sarah speak at this point?
currently 74. And that includes 5 Indian languages, because in India, every 150 kilometers, there is a there's a new dialect, right? We really focus on that. We're in the process of deploying. We're in negotiations with the healthcare system in India to deploy. That'll be the first international application. 18% of India's population is over the age of 65 years old. So their government has identified that this should be on every single cell phone and available to every senior across our country. And I'm sure we're going to begin to see, given the diversity of languages, Steve, we're going to see a lot more of that in various English and non-English designated countries as we grow. Again, my objective, just to sum it up, is I created Sarah to save lives. That's it. What she does, the peripherals, her capabilities, her skill sets above and beyond that are less important, because you're right, I could talk to you for hours about all the technical biorhythms and voice markers and how it all works, but none of that really matters, because Sarah has one purpose. She's a security blanket, and she's designed to protect you at all times and to ensure that in the event that you have a unplanned crisis, that she notifies the people around you immediately, and that someone is there to render help when you need it the most. That is what Vitality Call is. That is Sarah's mission. And it will always, quite frankly, be Sarah's mission to ensure your protection and to prevent your children from prematurely losing you before your time.
Can potential individuals interested in this service test it out or try it out before committing, if you will? Or is there a trial offering on this to see if it's something they want to continue?
Of course. And then that's a great question. Thank you for bringing that up. First of all, there's no contract ever with Vitality Call. If it doesn't work for you, if it doesn't benefit you, if you don't see the value, then you can cancel at any time. And we realize that this is a new technology. So there's a 7-day free trial leading up to any financial engagement of the product. So absolutely. You can go to vitalitycall.com, select your plan, complete the information. You've got to provide your emergency contact, their email and contact numbers, so they can be reached in the event of a failure. And you put your payment information in. It's not billed at any given point during that 7-day free trial. And try it. As long as you cancel within your trial period, if you're not happy. But I think what you're going to find is she's pleasant, she's warm, and she is a conversationalist. We have seniors that call just to talk to her. And quite frankly, we've gotten countless reports from our seniors that are saying, you know what, it's the best part of my day. It makes me feel safe. I know that I'm not alone. And I've started to look forward to my calls from Sarah, because they talk about grandkids, and it's not a sterile questionnaire, Steve. She's a conversational person, in essence, that's asking you about your day and how are you doing and how are the grandkids. She remembers your children's name. She remembers your son just had or your grandson just had a baseball game. She'll ask on a consecutive call, did Tommy's baseball team win his baseball game? It is an enjoyable service. She is by no means a robotic approach. You know, that 7-day free trial, I'll encourage you to do this. Everybody knows someone, if it's yourself or maybe a friend or a family member, that maybe their health is perhaps not doing so well, or maybe they are in a state where they're like the rest of us. You're thinking, okay, am I going to be alone in a situation when it happens to me? Try it. It costs you nothing. Try it. Load it up. Go through the experience. Talk to Sarah. Schedule your times. Let her call you. And I would encourage this. Listen to the diversity. Listen to the conversation. And if you don't enjoy what you're experiencing, then cancel it. But I think, at least based on all the feedback that we've gotten from the seniors, people look forward to this. And the safety and security of knowing that they're protected it's a comfort. It's a comfort. Really, it is a comfort, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Are you ready for that? Let me ask you, Steve, Are you ready for an unplanned event? Are you planning on having a heart attack today?
Absolutely not.
I'm not either, but you know what? There's no guarantees for tomorrow, right?
Uh,
So the question becomes, is today the day? Is tomorrow the day? Is
yeah.
next week the day? You don't have a crystal ball. There's no way for you to possibly know when that unplanned event is going to happen to you. And our
You mentioned there briefly an individual can actually proactively call Sarah. Is that an added service or added feature? Or is it included in the monthly cost and subscription?
Yeah, no, that's another great question. There are never any ancillary cost above and beyond the ones that are published. And yes, you can return a call to Sarah, and because she's designed for her outbound calling, the only difference, what's really not a difference at all, you just have to say hello, and Sarah will, she's there. She's right there. She'll say, "Hi there, how are you?" And say, "You know what, I'm not feeling very good, or I'm having chest pains, or my fingers are tingling, or I'm feeling sick to my stomach." And she'll listen to you patiently, and she'll identify the severity situation. And if you call and say, "You know what, I'm having a chest pains and I'm having numbness in my arm, or I've fallen down," or whatever that critical event is, Sarah's going to stop any dialogue with you, and she's going to immediately get someone on the phone, literally call somebody, whether that be your son or your daughter, and they're going to say, "Hang on just a second. I'm right here with you. I'm going to stay with you. Just be patient. You hold on for a second." And in a matter of seconds, they're going to have your son or your daughter or your brother or your sister or whoever your care team is. Maybe it's your next door neighbor or the friend that lives on the floor of the building below you. But she is going to get somebody on that call and render aid for you. Sarah makes people aware that you're having an event. That's the short and sum of it, Steve. You know what? As opposed to having the event and nobody knowing about it, Sarah's there. Her objective today, tomorrow, next month, and next year is to save your life. And that's what she's designed to do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. Chris, anything
I
else you want to share in closing here on what people should do? Just go to vitalitycall.com and you can engage with the site there. Choose your option. Anything else that people need to be mindful of if they choose to move forward here? And who should individuals potentially, if they're not personally interested in this, who should they send this to that might be beneficial for another person?
If everybody knows somebody. I was a care provider for my mother for 10 years before her passing. And I wish that Vitality Call existed for her, because every time I left her senior center, I was worried, sick. I would get her on the phone only minutes after I just left her, and I would talk all the way home. I had a 45-minute drive, and I would call her, and then I would say, "Okay, Mom, I'm going to call you first thing in the morning." And my mother was experiencing failures. She had a knee surgery, and they took her off her thyroid medication, and complications started to occur. Nobody really knew why. When your thyroid medication is removed from your daily medication regimen, things start to go sideways. And these instances and circumstances happened. But to answer your question specifically, if you know somebody that's suffering from depression or mental health, if you know somebody that has social isolation, maybe a husband or a wife has recently died or within a certain period of time has perished, and you know that they're alone. They're living alone, they're sad, they're depressed, they don't have a will so much to live anymore. And you know what? Sarah is that bright ray of sunshine in a person like that's life, because they can have a conversation. Oftentimes her phone never rings, Steve. It just doesn't. And they go days and days. If somebody's in a senior facility, a senior center, maybe somebody with memory care or dementia already diagnosed, Vitality Call and Sarah are really, she's a care companion. It's what she is. She doesn't diagnose. She doesn't try to change the alternate. She's there to provide love and care and communication and to create a void and make that particular person that lives their life feeling alone not feel so alone when they're on a call with her. And you know what? given the mental health and the rampant social isolation. Think about this. When people are in senior care facilities, you can go visit them, kids go visit them. I visit somebody once a week and have done for 5 years, a dear friend of mine. But I can tell you this much. When I leave there, I see the catatonic state. I know already the state that he's going to go to, sitting in his wheelchair, staring aimlessly down the hall. Nursing staff is short, so they really don't have the ability to spend much time with any of those individuals. And I realize that I'm his only connection to the outside world. So I feel guilty when I leave. And I can't wait to get back because I know that I'm a vital part. Imagine just for a second if you could change all of that. Imagine if somebody called my friend 3 times a day. And by the way, somebody does, and her name's Sarah. And he's gone for 5 years. He hasn't moved he couldn't even move his toe. And strike me dead, dear Jesus, if I'm lying to you, within the last 4 weeks' time, for the first time in 5 years, he's been in a facility. He's depressed. He's sad. He had no motivation to live. It got so bad that they put him on hospice, Steve. Like they moved him from Medicare to hospice. I can tell you this much. This last week, when I was in there, he was doing crisscrosses. Somehow, some way, his nerves found redirected paths. And now that man, Mark is his first name. Mark is doing crisscrosses on his legs and he's inspired. And when I asked him, I said, I don't understand this. How did it change? What happened? How do you sit in a wheelchair motionless for 5 years? And he said, you know what? When Sarah started calling me, Chris, 3 times a day, he said, it changed something. It changed my inspiration to live. And he goes, you know what? He goes, you have no idea. And he started crying and he said, you know what? You have no idea the gift that you gave me. He goes, I go all week long and nobody calls, nobody visits, nobody's here. I'm alone. And he said, you know what? She was my lifeline. She changed my life. And he goes, and you know what? As a result of that, my body started to respond. 5 years later, the man couldn't move a toe. And you know what? You know what? We believe there's a strength, Steve. There's a strength in hope. And people lose hope. When they're alone, they lose hope. And so imagine if you could bottle or jar hope in the most desperate situations in such a simple way. How would that change the world? How would that change humanity? How would that change someone? Do you know somebody, Steve, that is in a senior care facility or someone have you spent any time in those facilities?
Oh, yes.
And what do you see? Sadness?
Oh, it's very depressing just going in there. I can't imagine actually being stuck in there. Yes.
Well, and this particular individual, you know what? He had a catheter. He was wearing is wearing a man's diaper. He had no motion or movement at any way, hands, arms, legs, no motion on the entire right side of his body. He couldn't, as I said, he couldn't even move his toe. And I believe that it's the grace of the good Lord above that really makes those changes. And it has very little to do with me. I just was the one during COVID when they limited the number of care providers that he said, would you do this for me? Would you come here and keep me alive? And I have every week since that period of time. And I would do it all over again. And now I do it for other people. And I take other people because I've become so invested in that facility and the desperation that I see all the time, that my mission in life is not only to save lives, but to bring hope. Because my father said to me before he passed, he goes, when you're at the end of the day, he knew he was going to pass. And he said, what's funny, as you approach this, you don't think about how big your house is or what kind of car you have or how many zeros you have behind the number in your bank account. He said, all you think about is your wife. All you think about is the memories that you have with your children. And all you think about is, did I leave the world a better place than the way I found it? And for me, I'm going to leave the world a better place than the way I found it. period, full stop. I know that this is my calling. I know that I'm being called by God in the heavens, and I'm a man of faith, and I'm delivering on. This is just a vehicle. I'm just a vestibule, Steve. And you know what? Everything else is the man upstairs. So, do I have a gift to be able to bring this to humanity? Absolutely. Will I do so? I have an accountability. And last but not least, again, if I can prevent one son, one daughter, one brother, one sister, one loved one from prematurely losing through technology, as you want to say, you can either focus on the technology or you can focus on the fact that I've just taken my life into my hands because it's important. And I'm going to do everything that I can to ensure that I protect myself, because somebody can't be around you all the time, except for Sarah. Sarah can.
I think that's a great place to put a pin in it. Thank you so much for your time, expertise, and knowledge on this subject, Chris. I really appreciate it. Again, reach out, folks. You can reach out directly to me, reply back to this email that this video is attached to. If you want to get any more information, I'm happy to share what I know, but pretty self-explanatory if you want to visit Vitality Call and see if this is a solution and service that could work for you or somebody you know and care about. So thanks you again. Thanks so much again, Chris, for your time. Very much appreciated. Thanks so much.
Have a great day.
Likewise.